Hi guys, Danny here from Angel Handmade Papercraft. Today I have a card for my design team, Auzz, Trinklets and Crafts. Our theme this month is animals. I have used a stamp from Stampendous' House Mouse Designs collection. I've using the image, the stamp within my Misty stamping tool, which is great investment, worth every cent. These stamps are amazing. They've got so much detail in them and they stamp first go, even without the stamping mat, which you do need to take out of your Misty tool. I'm stamping the image on Mondi Color Copy 250 GSM today. I've got it all cut to size already. I get that done when I purchase a ream of it. I will be using Memento Tuxedo Black to stamp the image today. It's a great stamp for Copic markers. It doesn't smudge or anything like that. Just give it a light press and every single detail that is in that stamp is there. So these are all the Copic markers I'm using today. I will add a list of those in the comments section below the video. And now we'll start colouring along. So first I'm colouring the little brown mouse. I'm using E51, E53, E55, E57 and E59 and R11 for his cheeks. Or her cheeks. May not be a boy, it may be a girl, who knows. With the cheekiness of him and what he's about to do to that balloon, I would guess that it's a little boy mouse. Now I just try to use a light hand with Copic markers. Just makes it that little bit easier to blend through. Now I have cut out bits and pieces throughout this video just to make it that little bit shorter for you. It's just under 15 minutes at the moment, which is not too bad. That's just the colouring side of it. I will create another video for the card process. This is actually about my 4th or 5th attempt with this video. I keep losing it, or my computer keeps telling me that my storage is full. I haven't been having much luck with it lately, which is why it's a little bit late for my design team project. Thankfully, I run the design team and they're pretty forgiving. Now, with these images and because of the detail that they do have, I've started just trying to work out where my darkest areas are going to be. So I've worked out where the arms are, where they meet, where the legs are exactly. And then I'm just going in with a flicking motion just to add all those details into his hair or fur or whatever you want to call it. Now this is very time consuming, hence again why I have had to cut up the video a little bit. There's a lot of detail in the hair. So we're just flicking through now onto the mid-tone colour, which is the E57. The first one back there was the E59. So just going back in, just grabbing just the edge of the E59 and pulling it out with the E57. Now you may notice that I hold my markers very close to the nib. That's the most comfortable way I find to use them. Most people are trained to hold them up a little bit higher, but this way works for me the best. And I feel like I have more control over what I'm doing, so each to their own on that one. I'm now going in with the E55 marker just to go back in and blend the E57 and the E59 out. Just adding a little dot detail in there to try and blend it out a little bit more without over bleeding it or over saturating it. Just adding a little N2 onto the head of the pin there. I only use one colour, it doesn't, sorry, I did go back in with 2 colours, so I used N0 and N2 there. So now I'm moving on to the little grey mouse. I've used N0, N1, N2, N4, N6 and the R11 once again just for the cheeks. So I'm going in first with my lightest colour just to make sure that I'm only colouring the mouse and I know exactly where all of his body parts are. So I'm now going in to do the lightest color, the darkest color that I'm going to use on his face and ears. So obviously his face is going to be lighter than what the hair will be. So I'm just working on one section at a time. I'm now moving on to the N6 to start giving him some detail on his hair. Just on the way around, so that was the N6. I'm now using the N4. So just a light flicking motion, once again just picking up the darker colour and moving it out. So it may look like I am pressing a little bit hard on my markers here, but I'm actually not. It's just the way that the video is showing. Just adding a little R11 onto his cheeks. Use a sleeping little mouse. Now I'm going to work on the balloon. I'm using the BG markers. Now I don't use a lot of the BG markers, so most of the time I am just winging it with the blends that I use. I don't have a favourite of those. Now you've just got to remember that a balloon is a round object. So just keep that in mind when you're colouring. And also with these stamps in particular, all the little black dotted sections that you do see is usually a guide of where they suggest to pop your darkest areas in. So I'm colouring a little bit different here than what I normally would do, just trying to, you know, keep it to the way that they've designed the stamps to be. So I'm using the BG57 here. And I used the BG53 on the first coat. So I'm now just going back in with my BG53 to blend that out a little. I did plan to stop with just using those two colours, but I do go back in with another marker and add in some more dark colour. Now colouring in all the flat balloons. Now, when I am colouring an image, I am not the person that can go and find a paper pad or have a design in my head. Normally, I either bulk colour or I just wing it. And then I go looking for a paper later, which sometimes does make it a little bit more difficult for me, but this is the way that I do it. So all the different colours that I'm picking here, I actually have no idea what papers I'm going to use, so I am totally just flying off the edge of my seat. That's the saying, isn't it? Okay, now moving on to my wire markers. I'm using Y13, Y15 and Y19. So you've seen just before I started the yellow markers there, I did add in that BG75 marker just to add a little more shadow into those balloons. Now with the yellow markers, it probably wasn't really necessary to use 3 markers because they are such small areas. So if you don't have 3 markers of a certain blend, you can make it work with less. You really can. Now moving on to my BV markers. Sorry, I'm sort of sliding out of frame here. Sometimes you forget to look up and see whether the camera's focus is still in the same place. So I'm using the BV00, BV01 and BV04. I don't know if you guys can hear the wind in the background here. It's crazy windy outside. So I went in first with my lightest colour, added 1 coat, and now I'm going in with the darkest colour, adding in all my shadows. And then back to my medium colour now just to pull those shadow colour out. And then I will quickly go back in with my lightest colour, the BV00, just to blend all that out. Oh, I must have missed some. Yep. Now, most of my Copic markers are the sketch marker. I do still have a couple of chow markers. I am slowly starting to replace them. I prefer the sketch markers. They just sit more comfortably in my hand, but each to their own. I started out with all chows, not a complete set, I didn't have that many, just until I realised how much I was using them. With the sketch markers, they do hold more ink, which means that you don't have to refill them as often. Now this is about the stage where I've realised that the green balloon up on the left hand side there, I've realised I've coloured the top of the balloon to the left. So I will go in with another marker later on and change the colour of that one. Okay, moving on to the YR markers. I'm using YR15 and YR18. So here I am now just going back over that section there to change it. So I'm not combining two balloons into one. So once again, I'm only using two markers. They're only small sections, so you don't need much. In with the YR18 to give it some shadow. Back to my lightest colour to blend out that dark marker. This is the first time I've actually used one of these Stampendous stamps. They're absolutely beautiful to colour. The detail and it's just awesome. I love them. I'll definitely be purchasing a few more. Now I was tossing up whether to do the little ribbon or cord or whatever you want to call it that's coming out of the balloon in Copic markers, but because it was so thin, I thought my safest bet would be just to use my Copic multi-liner. I'm using the 0.1 marker here, so it just makes it that little bit easier and keeps it all in within the lines, and also I can colour if I need to over it and it won't bleed. Now I'm moving on to the shadow of the image. So underneath all of that balloon stack there will be a shadow. So I'm just using the W markers. I'm using W6 as my darkest, W4 as my mid-tone, and W2 as my lightest tone to blend it all back out. So you've just got to make sure here that you don't accidentally colour in any of those sections you've already coloured and ruin your image, which is normally something silly that I would do, but not this time, thankfully. Just using the W4 to blend out the W6 and start pulling that shadow out. Now down to my lightest colour, which is the W2 marker, just pulling that out just that little bit further, just to define it a little bit. It's just about done now, I think. Pretty happy with the way that it turned out, loving all the colours that I've used. Anyway, thanks for stopping by, guys. I'll have a card process video up soon. Thanks for stopping by.